This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about a culture of learned helplessness. It might not seem like that, but there is a strong element in our culture, in the dominant culture, of learned helplessness. Tina, there is no alternative, is it expresses it, is one way that we understand that we in many cases we do not see a way out. We feel helpless because we do not really see light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know what to do. We just feel impotent, powerless, and but most of us do not understand or do not perceive ourselves as suffering from this lack of agency. Because we are supposed to be rational beings, looking for our self-interests and having freedom of choice and all the rest. And it seems it doesn't seem as if we really live in absence of agency in political, economical, social and cultural, because the kind of agency we have is mostly as consumers and spectators, to consuming what we don't need with the money we don't have, to impress people that even we don't like. So we just are not improving our agency. We are using our resources, or the resources we need, I mean the money that we need, that we have to work hard to be able to earn, and then we just waste it in so many forms because we need to look for some pleasure and some compensation to our our empty lives in many senses. So this is learned helplessness. We might not feel like that, but in reality it is what it is. And there are many people every day. You find them in all kinds of advertisements, and you can buy all sorts of books, self-help books, and you can also find coaches or private trainers or spiritual leaders, and all forms of people that they are going to tell you that they have the skills and the knowledge and the spiritual authority to help you with your problems, to align you with whatever, to bring back some kind of unity. I mean, but most of these people, they are only after your money. That's all. That's all they want. They might make you dependent, not more free, but they tell you, I mean, there is not a possibility that you find a self-help book or somebody that really helps you. Of course, that is possible. But the question is, you are looking for self-help to free you, or to make you conscious of what? What's the purpose of self-help. It's just that you become more successful, as so many books that have been written, how to become rich, how to become a billionaire, how to become this, how to become that. Or is it a self-help that makes you more conscious of yourself, of your needs, and at the same time of the problems that our societal systems have that do not allow you to really achieve or have a life with meaning, because you have to perform tasks or fulfill duties that slowly destroy yourself, that really destroy all your creativity, all your humanity. And then you don't talk about, so many times we don't talk about that, so people just live with that, try to survive with that in these circumstances, manufactured circumstances, like manufactured scarcity, that transforms us in instruments, but in instruments of who, if we are instruments, if we are tools, if we are cogs, what's the purpose of that? There is no other way to live but like that. A culture of learned helplessness doesn't mean that we are helpless in every sense of the word. We, in many cases, are also or become and behave as let me put it in another way. We replicate or reproduce the behaviors of the ones that exploit us and use us, and then we just learn it. We just make it. That's part of life. That we it doesn't matter from which walk of life or social class or whatever. We all reproduce this kind of behaviors that are that dehumanize us. That's nothing to do with politeness or cultural sophistication, social sophistication. It has to do with a deep learned process that influences how we perceive each other and how we learned to relate to each other, our expectations, our feelings of entitlement. That, of course, it doesn't mean that we are all the time conscious of our behaviors, because it just became part. Since it is part of the dominant culture, it becomes part of who we are. It becomes part of our normal or natural behavioral patterns that can always be rationalized and justified, because we just that's this division and this hierarchy of values and norms and moral principles just makes us entitled to some sort of perception, merit perception, that we believe that through how we have the merit, we are entitled to this or that, because either we have the means to pay for it, so therefore we should be served, or we feel superior for some reason, cultural, social, professional. It can also be from race or other, so or doesn't matter what it can be, almost everything. because this culture of division that allows us to perceive, to categorize, and to make an hierarchy of everything. Therefore, there are so many subdivisions. You can see that, for example, in the Indian culture, with these subdivisions, caste subdivisions, subcastes, and that you always have this, that you can always try to perceive yourself a little better, or in a better position, a little superior than the other. So, and we live. This is the culture, the dominant culture, that so many people try to justify with evolution, a social Darwinism, with which, as most know already, it's not. It is this feeling of entitlement that and also the entitlement and superiority and rights and privileges. This is a part of our biases, and these are prejudices that condition our behavior and are normalized and naturalized, and we do not think about them. We do not have to I mean, we don't usually have a conscious analysis of these behaviors and this perception of reality, of our relations, how we relate to each other, because it's just normalcy. It's just what we expect, and it's just with we have a kind of a velvet glove of good manners and politeness that that in reality is a cover-up for all of us to behave, to exploit the vulnerabilities of others. And then the problem with that, the core of the problem, is that we assume, it is part of the culture, that we assume these behaviors as normal part of the human condition. That's nothing we can do. We can have rules and laws and principles and norms and everything that makes us behave in a better way, but we cannot do anything to change the nature of the human condition. And we already assume that the nature of human condition is this self-interested, highly competitive beings that fight to each other for supremacy, for power and control, and that we all are the same, which means to me that what we are doing is using the exceptions, okay, to write the rule. All right, that's exactly like that, and then we allow systems to be created and implemented and developed to as societal systems and civilizational paradigms that then become the norm, become what we believe, most of us, in spite of all cultural differences and societal differences, all of us believe this is human condition. That's nothing we can do about it. So therefore, we have everything has to be technical, legal. So we have to have legal codes, technological advancements, which means technofixism and technoscientism, as the religions that we should follow to solve our problems. And then we just do not do anything to change the systems that are responsible, that have been created, developed, and perfected by the people that represent that are the exception. Okay, they are the ones. They are a minority, but they are the minority that do not deserve respect, because they are the minority that want because they lack compassion and empathy. So what they want is, they do not want to our good, the collective good. They just want power and control through the accumulation of wealth and through through building social systems and economic systems and political systems and ethical and aesthetic systems that in the end protect themselves, okay, and glorify themselves by glorifying the system. And this is, we go back to the ancient cultures, and the same problem, the problem is there. Learned helplessness, and it is a part of the larger system, the broader system, which means that we are manipulated, conditioned to that we have choices of, for sure, because learned helplessness, it's not about that we do not have choices. Of course we have choices, but all our choices, if we want to have success, professional success, social success, economic success, we need to adapt. We cannot challenge the system. We can challenge we can be innovative, and we can be disruptive at scientific, technological, and this is the kind of, not political or the economic system, but that's why we can be innovative by creating new products, new inventions, or that something that can give you success, professional success, recognition, and money, but without challenging the order, the existing order. That is exactly the form of learned helplessness that for most of us, for those that are the majority the people that we say that belong to the middle class and working class and poor, the working poor, and all the people that are in the lower classes. They do not really have many chances, but if they want to survive, if they want to have the minimum comforts of life, they need to conform with that reality, which means that it doesn't matter what they think, it doesn't matter what they feel. What matters is that they need to conform if they want to make a living. And this is learned helplessness, because you might vote for A, B, or C, but you cannot expect system change. You can expect a few reforms, or just empty promises, and nothing changes. And actually, as we have been experiencing in our lives in the Western countries, through austerity, which is a political tool, it's nothing to do with economics, is a political tool to weaken us, the majority, and through manufacture scarcity, and then we just get weaker and weaker, and that means that we feel more and more helpless through the process of learning helplessness, because we just think and feel that there is nothing we can do to change the system, to challenge the existing order. And that is learned. That's nothing to do with the reality. That we can or cannot change or challenge the system. We just assume, or we are manipulated in order to perceive reality like that, and we cannot expect real change. We just can hope that someone will help us. So therefore we look for authorities or leaders or saviors or whoever that saves us in collectively, which means someone that saves society or solves the problems that our societal, economic and political problems and geopolitical problems. So we expect some ruler or leader to do that, to incarnate that job. Or at the individual level, we can look for self-help books or coaches or other authorities and experts and celebrities or whoever that will tell you that if you do this or that, if you follow me, if you give me some money, I will help you to achieve this or that. Okay? And this is exactly, but what they are trying, they most of the time, and I want to emphasize that it doesn't mean that we cannot have some help or some help, self-help books or other resources cannot be helpful. That's not what I'm saying. That's everything. But generally speaking, these people, they will try to tell you the same thing. How can you be successful, become happier or wealthier or more whatever, if you follow what they are trying to tell you? They are not helping you to, they will not tell you anything about confronting the system, about system change, about the roots of the problems. It's more about how can you change your habits, your behaviors, even your thoughts of your feelings, that might help you to feel better, to have a better mental health, psychological health, emotional health, and eventually economic and social life. And we all want to improve our lives. You know, we always feel that we can do better. There is things that there is kind of insatisfaction that we always, and this insatisfaction is exacerbated exactly by a system that wants you to feel insatisfied with yourself. That makes us to feel insatisfied with ourselves, that we should be always looking for something, not to be something, but to buy something, to consume something, to make us happier, to accomplish something, to make us fulfill a need, a deep need, or a deep emptiness that of course cannot be fulfilled like that. Because that emptiness, that feeling of emptiness is relational. It's nothing to do with yourself. It's nothing wrong with yourself. What's wrong with yourself? It's at the relational level. How you relate to yourself, and how you relate to others, and how do we relate to other human beings and other living beings and the nature in general. It's about lacking the feeling of wholeness, the true feeling of wholeness, that you are not supposed to learn that from others, what you can, and that should. And that's why I don't have the role, I don't pretend to have the role of teaching anything, but I like to say what I'm saying is true for myself and true for anybody else, I believe. But it's not about trying to sell anything. It's about trying to be as honest as possible, as humanly possible. And this is why the difficulty for most of us is that our daily lives, our professional lives, our social lives are really bad. In the end, they are part of the process of learned helplessness that most of us are oblivious to, and we should be more aware of it, should become aware of it, and otherwise we believe that we are in control. And we don't control anything. We just have the kind of freedoms we enjoy. Don't make any difference in they allow us. We have freedom of movement. We have freedom of choice when it comes to as consumers, if you have the money. Otherwise, you don't have that freedom at all. We have freedom of expression and freedom of thought, but even freedom of expression and freedom of thought is very conditioned, is not as free as most of us imagine. But and then we believe that we don't perceive ourselves as being deep conditioned and deeply manipulated, but we are. And the more we lack, or the more we lack, of course, conscious training, and that's why self-help is important. But self-help for what? What's the purpose of self-help? What kind of self-help should you implement? What kind of training? What kind of mental, psychological, cognitive, intellectual, ideological, cultural training? Ethical and aesthetic training, conscious training should we engage in order to self-help us, to self-help us in a conscious transformation, not just to fit, because that's always the same thing, is how can you become this and that, but within the boundaries of the existing system, never to challenge them. Okay, I mean, if we believe that this system is the system that should perpetuate it, that should exist forever, so I think you are in the right path. But to what? What is the reality that we are building? The physical reality, the societal and civilizational reality that we are building. What are the roots of the problems that we have? What makes us sick? Why do we have so many problems, mental problems and psychological problems? Why does cognitive dissonance and schizophrenia is an issue? Why do we live to these schizophrenic lives? Why can't we have a culture of wholeness? Why can't we have a civilization, an ecological, holistic civilization? Why can't we have a social and ecological political economy? Is that utopian? Or are we trying to build a utopian system that is dystopian and dysfunctional and it is not as efficient as you believe, because there is a lot of inefficiency, and the second law of thermodynamics, it teaches us that. And we could also see it through the lenses of thermodynamics, that our culture and our political economy is wrong, is dysfunctional, is not as efficient as it seems. But many questions that we could ask, or we should ask, have a political connotation, which means that we need to understand society through the lenses of class, because class is a cultural and ideological construction for the purpose of power and control, to allow the few, to allow the ones that are the exception to become the rule, to become the rule and the rulers. And that's why we need a web of deception to allow them to create a culture that makes us all believe in a system that requires a web of deception to exist, to be perpetuated, because it cannot. I mean, this is obvious that it cannot sustain with the truth. That's why we need. We live in a kind of obscurantism. There is the obscurantism and secretism. That we are supposed to be too stupid, too ignorant to understand the mechanisms of power, and therefore there are certain things that the state, the government, the state, the rulers, in this case the political rulers, are supposed to keep us, to omit, to keep it secret, because there are certain things we cannot know. So how can we decide and choose democratically without, if there are missing links? Omission is a form of lie, and it is this is part again of a process, a political process, political and ideological process, that to keep us to a process of learned helplessness. That's why whatever, I mean, if we look for real change, we cannot just look away from these issues, these topics. These ideas are important. They need to be part of the equation. They need to be part of the questioning process that we need to have if we want to understand, to have a realistic understanding of the system where we live. Otherwise, we are more of a shell that when we confuse an empty shell, and I mean not empty shell, but full of rubbish, then where style is more important than substance, and of course a cultural identity is this, and the culture wars, for example, and we presume that certain topics makes us progressive or even lefty, when in fact we are not getting it right, because we lack the understanding of the wholeness, of a comprehensive understanding of the roots of the problems. And just because we believe we are a lefty, it doesn't mean that we understand. And even if you have also a class understanding, which is important, which is imperative, but it's not enough. That's the point of those that think class consciousness is enough, but to me it is not enough. We need to have a larger understanding of reality. The left needs to understand. I mean, the left. I mean, I don't even know what. I mean, because there are so many lefts. Um, but it is necessary for the people on the left spectrum, political and ideological spectrum, to think about the issue of learned helplessness, to include it in the political analysis and the ideological analysis of the social reality, to understand why we are not able to move. We are trapped in the so many divisions and conflicts and ideological and because this is part of a culture of a web of deception culture. That is the problem of divide to rule, and there are so many leftist thinkers and academics and ideologues and theorists. They also suffer the same problem. This is the problem of the ego. They believe they are authorities on something, so they have kind of to be followed. They have to be. They are the ones that know something, and this cannot be. These people should not even see themselves as leftists, because if you pretend to be left, and you already believe that you are an authority on something, you are already not a true left and progressive. Because you need to be open. Democracy is about the ability of all of us to participate. Agency, political and economical and academic intellectual agency. Not to be ruled, not to have a system that is top-down. I'm not talking that we do not need organization or we do not need a combination of centralization and decentralization. The deep deception is that we are supposed to depend, we the many are supposed to depend on authorities, leaders, experts, saviors. And that is part of a culture of learned helplessness. That is the point. And we should not assume that our role, or those who eventually know better, because they have the opportunity or the tendency to look closer and deeper into the issues, they are not authorities. They are not superior in any form of shape. They just have, like any other human being, our differences that make us more propense or more that we have certain tendencies. So therefore we have our contribution. And we cannot see ourselves as having any kind of entitlement. That is the culture we need. It doesn't mean that we cannot have we don't need organization, that I do not believe in anarchy. I believe that we have complex societies, and we cannot, it's impossible to go back to indigenous forms of organization. This is utopian, that's for sure. But we can change. We can have a different form of organizing our societal and economic systems. That what I would like people to discuss about the political, social, and ecological political economy, and an ecological holistic civilization, not only ecological, because an ecological civilization that based on economic growth and a system an economic system that is that based, and therefore even we believe that interests and the banking and financial system at national level and international level is, as it exists today, is part of the imperialistic paradigm of civilizational paradigm. And if we do not understand that this is also part of a system that has been designed, that has been changed over time to produce learned helplessness, okay? That's another form of learned helplessness. Through the financial institutions, through the privatization of the creation of money, and the privatization of using debt and interest, which used to be a sin and illegal in many cultures. But again, a little minority, was able to create the legal system to authorize them to use interest rates, to use interest, and to glorify this system. That is still the dominant system. And the problem is that most of us do not understand that this our culture that makes us believe this system is okay. There are injustices, but the system itself, we need it like it is. No, we don't need it. We should challenge it, but we need to challenge it intellectually and at the subconscious level, to have new ideas, new narratives that become dominant in order that we can really challenge them. Because this is always the problem. Why we cannot have a revolution and to have a different societal system and civilizational system, it's because if you are not able to change the dominant narratives, we will go back or that means that the elites will roll back the system, or new elites will roll back the system, because there will always be people, there will always be citizens. It doesn't matter how democratic, how just is the system, there will always be people with sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies that will try to hijack the system in their favor. So we need to have the narratives that will make us more resilient to those attacks. And that can be done But we need to have a really deep and comprehensive understanding where the roots of the problems are. And they are, it's not only one system. We have a system that comprehends several systems or subsystems, and they all together form this imperialistic civilizational paradigm, and a society and an economy based on growth. And this is an important point. Why do we need that? Why the debt needs to grow permanently? And we never ask this question, mostly at the grassroots level. Why do we need interest rates? Because we assume that it's fair. Because we have been told that it is fair. And it seems logical that people lend money with interest. But money is not a thing. Money is a medium of exchange that is used as a tool to control society. So those who have the power to issue money, they don't care who control the legal system, who control the government. That was a phrase, or I'm paraphrasing a Rothschild. I care not who controls the government as long as I have the power to issue the money of the issuance. Okay? So, learned helplessness is part of the web of a culture, of a web of deception. But why a web of deception? It's a web of deception for social control, accumulation of wealth and power. It's not random, and it's not purposeless. So this is why it is important to understand this topic, because it concerns us all. I mean, at least the majority of us. That we, instead of believing or perceiving ourselves as free and all this, no, we are not. We are victims of a web of deception that really is working deep in ourselves, in our subconscious minds. Our freedom doesn't end where the other people's freedom begins. Our freedom ends whenever we challenge the existing order. It doesn't matter how dysfunctional and how unjust this order is. If you dare to challenge them, you will suffer the consequences. So where is the freedom? Most of what we call freedom is based on blind faith and blind obedience. Because if you really dare to question the existing order, and you do not, you might, the velvet glove will come off. That's for sure. And that's why this is the politeness, the civilized facade is just that, is a facade. What we have, this imperialistic civilizational paradigm, is organized barbarism. You can say that we have so many achievements, architectural, engineer, artistic, Yes, that is true. Technological, scientific, yes. but it is based on power grab, wealth accumulation, and private control of everything. Even the state itself is supposed to serve these elites, not us, not the collective well-being. Therefore, when you think, if you think that you are free, and at the same time you are part of this system, you should think that you have enjoyed some freedoms. I do not deny that, but those freedoms are highly conditioned and based on a lot of learned helplessness that makes exactly you believe and feel that there is nothing you can do to change this reality. And that is a deep assumption that basically controls most of your thoughts and even your feelings. So, if you want to do something, you have to start to change, to cultivate, to train narratives and concepts and ideas that allow you to challenge the deep narratives, the dominant narratives that control your identity, your cultural and your cognitive systems, your intellectual assumptions, and if you want to be able to see reality through different lenses, instead only the lenses that nothing can be done to challenge the existing system. That's learned helplessness, whether you accept it or not. You can live in perpetual denial as well. For some people, that's a solution. But even the denial and cognitive dissonance, they are useful as survival strategies, okay, to keep us sane, that we don't become crazy. But even those are not really part of free choices. They are engineered choices. They are not. You don't choose it out of your conscious processes. You choose it because you need to survive in such a system, in such a dysfunctional system. So if we want to have a comprehensive understanding of the reality that where we live, where our lives, where we have to survive, there is a lot of questions that we need to ask, and they are not instinctive or intuitive. They need to be part of a conscious process, a conscious transformative process that you need to train yourself as part of a self-help process to a collective transformation, not just only to that we adapt better to a dysfunctional system in order to have more peace of mind or more professional success or better relations or become wealthier or whatever, but for the purpose of being more aware, more conscious of what is the purpose and the meaning, the deep meaning of life while we are here living on this earth as social beings that need that which should be engaged in the collective well-being as part of our lives. Okay, I'm going to end it here. Of course, this requires a longer conversation, and that will happen sooner or later, or sooner rather than later. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.